Welcome to a new astrology podcast. This astrology podcast is titled The Astrology of Soulmate Love. It is a reading from one of my articles, as usual, and I'm just going to get into it. The Astrology of Soulmate Love. Most people crave love. This is no secret. But most people inherit their concept of what love is from a single source, mother, or her absence thereof. You see, when an infant is born, they do not know they are infants or that they are anything at all. They do not know they are a self to begin with. It is only at about 3 to 6 months that an infant begins to realize that it has a body and that mama is not its own creation of desire. Prior to this time period, an infant does not see itself as separate from its environment, and it believes that mama's breast is merely an extension of its fledgling desire, because whenever it needs sustenance, mama magically appears to quench that need. I strongly suspect that people never really overcome this instinctual habit. Most still expect this process to continue long after they have grown into adults. They still expect some type of magical connection between their innate desires and the ability of these desires to somehow meet fulfillment in their external environment just by merely wishing it to be so. It is on the back of this scenario that I begin my exploration into the astrology of soulmate love. Love is a complex word indeed, especially the way it is used in English language, and only the foolish, reckless, or naively brave dare investigate it in detail. Since I am neither of these, I will severely curtail my investigation, scratching only the surface and thereby restricting myself to astrological considerations only. For some, love denotes physical attraction, attention, caring, sustenance, assurance, trusting, dating, lovemaking, etc., while for others it may mean none of these things. So how is the complexity of this definition different from soulmate love? From my perspective, soulmate love is characterized by one thing only: total satisfaction. I mean, satisfaction is just a word, and anybody can say that they are satisfied when quizzed. Yes, but satisfaction is not merely a word. In the context of love, it is a condition of being such that an individual's psyche is free from all encumbrance and secure in all its expressions with respect to another. When this occurs in a human being, such a person experiences an explosion of intense familiarity, joy, faith, meaning, success, growth, and overall contentment. These attributes are manifestations of a deep fulfillment in and from life. Some people strongly believe that only religious commitments can provide for such lasting conditions in a human life. I am not qualified to assess such a claim, and I also do not want to point you in that direction either. If there is one thing that has come to characterize growing up into adulthood, it is that life is punctuated by brief periods of happiness within an overwhelming sea of ordinariness and unhappiness. By midlife, most people have lost all the mystery and magic they once believed in, which made life fun and exciting. They increasingly spend most of their days looking for experiences designed to escape the ordinariness of human existence. It is within this ubiquity of the mundane that life is expected to grow, just like that singular beautiful red rose, which defies common sense by sprouting amidst the pavement of surrounding concrete slabs, despite itself. Admittedly, such generalizations cannot apply to everyone. There are those persons who have found the secret to deep relationship fulfillment in their lives, and it is from investigating the nexus of their many experiences that I bring you this blog post. The difference between other versions of love and soulmate love is the fruitfulness which occurs between its participants in time. Soulmate love grows individuals into joy and success. If your love doesn't do this, chances are that you are forcing a pairing that isn't right for you at soul level. Your soul is an embodiment of a themed narrative which you are writing every day of your life. As described in a previous post on the sun, the word soul comes from the word sol, which is Latin for the sun. As such, your soul is the organizing principle in your life. It is the space-time rhythm of the most important events in your life. It is your life's narrative playing out before your very eyes as an orchestration of meaning, which is informed by the space-time arrangement of critical events in your life. It is within this spatio-temporal context defined by your sun's astrological sign that the meaning of your life can be found. When a soul becomes damaged or impinged upon by disturbing factors, this absolutely familiar rhythm and narrative of your life changes. As soon as this happens, your soul calls into existence a restorative process known as a rectification. These rectifiers create the difficulties we often experience with certain transits in astrology. Without properly and fully understanding the dictates of your own soul, how is it possible to engage in a soul-level love match? It is almost impossible. The rhythm of your soul is like a complicated sine wave. In physical systems, two scenarios occur when waves meet and interfere with each other. There is either destructive interference or constructive interference. I won't bore you with the details of these processes, save that in destructive interference, the two waves annihilate each other with a net result of zero intensity or a very diminished wave capacity, while in constructive interference, the two waves reinforce each other with net increase in the intensity or strength of the resultant wave. In soulmate love, what we seek is constructive interference in the expression of mutual love and admiration for each other over time, and the subsequent manifestation of this reinforced love in our lives in the form of innate joy, trust, faith, growth, success, meaning, and happiness. In soulmate love, couples do not seek to build these individual qualities into their lives. These qualities only become apparent when such a couple's life is examined by external observers. It is these observers who define these attributes with a view to being able to explain what they have or are witnessing. All that a couple experiencing soulmate love see and experience within themselves is a deep sense of fulfillment and security at all times, and they witness these as physical manifestations in their lives. How? Well, such a couple keep growing in the fulfillment of their desires, thus enabling them to be more of who they really are and are aspiring to be. Commentary. I just want to, get off the reading for a little while just to make a commentary based on something that is observed here. Now, there are two families that every human individual is most likely going to experience in their lifetime. There is the family you were born into, and that you have no choice on the matter. Then there's the family that you choose to create by yourself, based on your own choices. And your first family sets the stage for the definition of your soul. The second family sets the stage for the blossoming or repression of that soul. That second family is your marriage, or your soulmate partner, or your partner, because that is going to be based on your choice. Okay? Now, you would say, what is the importance of this? Now, the importance of this is in the construction of a foundation. Because if you must reach for the stars, you must first stand on earth. You must have a solid foundation if you must aspire to greatness, if you must aspire to fulfill the requirements or the callings of your soul. So whatever aspirations, in astrology, whatever aspirations that are embedded in the condition of your 10th house, the implementation of those desires must be searched for in the foundation of the 4th. Coincidentally, the 4th house and the 10th house represent your parents, mom and dad. But mom and dad are just simply instantiations of a much deeper requirement, which is the requirement for security and a solid foundation. And that is what is referred to as your seat of conviction. Because it is that conviction that drives the implementation of reality in your life. That's really what it is. It's not your belief systems, and belief systems are simply acts of will. They change as your will changes. But a much deeper conviction is the foundation of your security, emotional security needs in your life. And it's upon this foundation that success is built. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So the choice of a partner, first and foremost in your life, must meet your emotional security requirements. Now, if you have not been raised in a proper, if you are born into a family that could not forge emotional security for you in the form of unconditional acceptance, because that's what family is, if that hasn't taken place within you and that hasn't crystallized, then it is most likely that you're going to struggle in the formation of your second family. And the reason being that your emotional security needs are not defined properly. You don't understand them. So, what exactly are you going to offer to someone else? What exactly do you bring into someone else in the forging of a foundation? You bring a troubled foundation. And anything you seek to build on a troubled foundation, well, chances are that it may lead to collapse. So it is very important that you understand your emotional security needs and the life cycle of its development, because it is upon that foundation that another will be expected to co-join with you in the erection of a building, a house, a structure, a family, a career, an aspiration. That's really what it is. It's not that complicated, people. The root to the examination of emotional security needs resides in absolute self-honesty. It's not easy to have this level of self-honesty in the examination of your emotional security needs, because these emotional security needs, they form the basis of your foundation. Okay, and it is on top of that that you erect your aspirations. All right, that said, moving on back into the article. So, what is the signifier of deep relationship fulfillment within an astrological chart? The signifier is the condition and comfort of the astrological moon with respect to the orchestrating ability of the astrological sun. In other words, once lunar placements are comfortable between the two natal charts, the orchestrating ability of the combined suns will build well correlated individual meaning, growth, and success within the love union. As such, the moon is the bedrock upon which soulmate love is erected, because it is the repository of those nurturing patterns which we were all first exposed to as infants. Those patterns have formed the foundation of what nourishing love would come to mean to us in adulthood. This signifier is also the active principle playing out in the sign of Cancer, which codifies how and in what section of life those nurturing patterns are relayed. It is also the requirements demanded by the astrological fourth house, which describes how we in turn respond to nurturing from others. Hence, it is the combined quality of these three placements which should be considered in the astrological investigation of soulmate love. Aspects to the moon, planetary energies in Cancer, and the fourth house are all statements about a native's need for deep fulfillment and innermost security. It is within this deep container that other emotional requirements like the need for pleasure, signified by Venus, the need for self-sacrifice, signified by Neptune, and the need for sexual intimacy, signified by Pluto, pour their contributing waters into. It is the moon which sculpts how these emotional contributions are received and internalized. During synastry considerations, care must be taken to investigate how these criteria within a combined chart are delineated. The moon by itself is very changeable, as witnessed by the behavior of the astronomical moon. How can such a changeable moon be the bedrock for soulmate love? The answer lies in the fact that it is not so much the moon per se which is solely responsible, but also the 4th to 10th house axis. This axis is what I have termed the axis of acceptance, because it is the unconditional acceptance demanded by the 4th, which gets expressed as what I call the conditional social acceptance of the 10th house. This lift from the 4th to the 10th is the potential for upliftment in the life of a native, and it is this lift potential which a soulmate's love unlocks in a native's life. It is the procedural and systemic unfolding of this lift potential within the life of a native which is responsible for that deep feeling of fulfillment and security when experiencing soulmate love. Since the 10th house is ruled by the relationship to social authority and the 4th house by the relationship to nurturing, the axis is really just an incubator of empowerment. It is this incubation of empowerment that best describes the consequence of being in a soulmate love union. In everyday life, We do not get the opportunity to examine the natal charts of every potential partner whom we meet. So, a heuristic for identifying a potential soulmate lies in observing similarities of nurturing styles, which are dependent on how such people take care of themselves individually. An individual's nurturing style is also evident in the relationship he or she has with their mother. In my experience, I have found this to be an excellent barometer in the assessment of how a native accepts themselves. Conditional acceptance of themselves usually implies restrictions in their ability to give and receive love. Intense similarity of personalities is the first clue when it comes to finding your soulmate. This is accompanied by a very strong feeling of familiarity on initial meeting. This strong level of familiarity is the result of such a meeting triggering infant memories of nurturing, which natives no longer have conscious access to in their psyches. This ancient memory recall is not evidence that you have found your soulmate. It is only evidence of the possibility of a soulmate tie. Further investigation into the personality profile of the person who triggered such memories in a native would reveal compatibility, affinity, or otherwise. When a native has learned to accept themselves properly by reconciling with their infant nurturing issues, then they are ready to attract their soulmate into their lives. When your soulmate comes into your life, all the qualities observers use to define a perfect relationship melt away. Those qualities don't truly exist in isolation. They are part of a beautiful, fruitful, successful, and completely immersive understanding with another human being, which we as external observers call soulmate love. Now, that is the end of the article. I hope you have enjoyed it. You know, it literally comes down to some people believe that opposites attract, and yeah, opposites create sparks. They create, because in nature, when opposites come together, what happens is a potential difference. That's what's called a potential difference. For instance, if you have a positive and a negative charge, and nature responds by trying to equalize the potential difference through the flow of electricity. So when two radically different personalities come together, they may have this instant spark of attraction, but that's just about it. It is not enduring, because ultimately, what matters in human relationships are similarities. And if you think I'm kidding about this, why do you think human beings form tribes? The tribal unit is a similarity unit. It's also a cultural unit. And it's the reason why there's conflict, because everyone tribes, everyone herds, especially for security reasons. It is for the same reason that we form, our affinity to people is determined by our emotional security needs. I don't think you would survive much in a relationship with someone who triggers all your insecurities. That unsettles you at a very deep foundational level. And as long as the unsettlement takes place within the deep foundation of your psyche, your career and other worldly aspirations will crumble. It is an absolute certainty. Okay? So what I'm trying to tell you, in effect, with most of my astrological posts or my astrological podcasts, I am saying that there is a physics of consciousness. There is a physics for the sculpting of reality. Reality is not random. The calculus for the implementation or the emanation of reality is taking place at such a deep level within yourself that you are absolutely unaware of it. That's really what it is. And in terms of relationships with another, especially love relationships, because nothing unsettles like a love relationship that's going awry. Nothing unsettles more than that, But it is usually the precursor event for worldly crisis in your life, especially when it comes to financial crisis. Okay? Because when you love someone, there is a connection at such a deep level that makes you vulnerable. And when that connection begins to go awry, the vulnerability travels deep within you and unsettles you at such a foundational level that if everything that is built on that foundation begins to shake and may crumble. Okay? So the choice of a mate, especially the person that you fall in love with, it's an absolute should be an absolutely conscious event. I mean, people say that you don't choose who you fall in love with. You don't choose who you are attracted to, but you surely choose who you fall in love with. Why? Because to love is to know. The more you know about a person, the more you take time to know about a person, the more time you spend with a person, those are the connections of love. So that's really what it is. So be careful, people out there. It can be a brutal world, but the all your tears are wiped away by the right connection. It doesn't matter how many failed connections you've had prior. The right connection makes everything all right. Take care now.